Rumors grow about a move to replace Keir Starmer as he denies targeting his rivals. London. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Wednesday was pushed to respond to growing rumors that members of his own Labour Party are planning to remove him as leader. The reports come just 2 weeks before a crucial government budget announcement that could further damage his already poor poll numbers. Late Tuesday, several UK news outlets quoted people close to Starmer who warned that his leadership might be under threat. They specifically mentioned Health Secretary Wes Streeting, suggesting that his ambition had raised serious suspicions. Those same allies also insisted that Starmer would strongly resist any attempt to unseat him. Streeting quickly called the reports ridiculous and harmful, telling the media he could not imagine any situation where he would challenge the Prime Minister. He accused those spreading the rumors of trying to undermine him. By Wednesday afternoon, what started as minor political gossip had turned into a major crisis. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch accused Starmer of running a toxic Downing Street, forcing him to publicly deny that his team had been spreading negative stories about senior Labour members. Speaking in Parliament, Starmer said he had not authorized any such briefings. "I appointed my cabinet because they're the best people for their jobs. Any attacks on them are completely unacceptable." This new political storm comes just before the government's budget on November 26th, when Labour is expected to raise the basic income tax rate for the first time in 50 years to close a major budget gap, breaking a key election promise. Finance Minister Rachel Reeves has hinted that both tax increases and spending cuts are on the table as she aims to reduce government debt. Such moves are likely to draw more criticism from Nigel Farage, whose Reform UK party has been leading Labour in the national polls for months. Starmer's popularity dropped sharply soon after Labour's huge election victory in July 2024. According to pollster YouGov, only 17% of Britons now approve of his performance as Prime Minister, while 73% disapprove. The reports that Starmer's own allies were briefing against Streeting, the minister responsible for fixing the struggling National Health Service, shocked many in the party and raised new concerns about how much control the Prime Minister still has over his team. "People are confused," one Labour MP told CNN anonymously. "Nobody really understands where these leaks are coming from." The timing also surprised lawmakers. Despite Starmer's rocky first 16 months in office, which have made him one of the least popular modern prime ministers, most Labour MPs believed he wouldn't face a real leadership challenge until after the May 2026 local elections, giving him time to recover in the polls. However, the Tuesday night reports have sparked speculation that Starmer could face a leadership test shortly after the upcoming budget. Even though Streeting denies any plan to run for leader, a West for Leader website appeared online on Tuesday. CNN has reached out to his office for comment. Rumors about a challenge to Starmer last circulated in September, when Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham tried and failed to question Starmer's leadership approach right before the Labour Party's annual conference. Still, removing a Labour leader is no easy task. Any challenger would need support from at least 20% of Labour's members of Parliament, around 80 lawmakers, to launch a formal leadership contest. Political analysts say this latest drama shows just how fragile Starmer's grip on power has become since his historic election win. The same Labour Party that once united behind his promise of stability and change is now struggling with growing internal divisions and frustration over stalled reforms. Party insiders say the constant leaks, rumors, and anonymous briefings have created an atmosphere of mistrust inside Downing Street. Some ministers reportedly fear that policy disagreements are being turned into personal attacks, while others believe Starmer's leadership team is losing control of the political message. Public reaction has been equally tense. Many voters who supported Labour in 2024, hoping for a break from years of conservative infighting, now feel disappointed. Social media has been flooded with criticism over what some users call a government distracted by its own power games, instead of focusing on fixing the economy and the National Health Service. Political commentator Sarah Grant told the BBC that the timing couldn't be worse. With the budget around the corner and living costs still high, she said, any sign of internal chaos could erase what little confidence voters still have in the government. Meanwhile, Wes Streeting has tried to distance himself from the speculation. In an interview with Sky News, he said he remains completely loyal to the Prime Minister and is focused on the NHS, not leadership gossip. But that hasn't stopped his supporters online from praising his performance and comparing him to a future Labour leader. The budget announcement later this month will now serve as a key test for Starmer's leadership. If the new tax rises spark public anger or further drops in support, Labour MPs could see that as their moment to push for change. On the other hand, if the government manages to steady public opinion and show progress on major issues, Starmer could buy himself some much-needed time. For now, Labour officials insist that talk of a leadership coup is exaggerated, but behind the scenes, the tension is undeniable. As one senior Labour advisor reportedly said, "Everyone's pretending this isn't a crisis, but it absolutely is."
As the weekend approaches, all eyes remain on Keir Starmer's next move. Senior advisors say the Prime Minister plans to address the public soon, hoping to reassure both voters and his own MPs that he is still in control of the government's direction. Sources close to Downing Street suggest that Starmer could use a major television interview or a press conference to reset his image and emphasize unity within the Labour Party. But experts say repairing trust won't be easy. Once rumors of a coup start circulating, it's hard to put the genie back in the bottle, said political analyst Mark Ellis. Even if Starmer silences his critics for now, doubts about his leadership will linger, especially if his approval ratings keep falling. For many Labour supporters, the current turmoil feels like a betrayal of the promises made during last year's landslide victory. The party campaigned on competence, stability, and integrity, a stark contrast to the years of conservative infighting that drove voters to seek change. Now, just 16 months later, Labour finds itself trapped in a similar cycle of leaks, briefings, and internal suspicion. Some members argue that Starmer's leadership style, cautious, centralized, and heavily focused on control, has alienated parts of the party. Others say that his attempt to govern from the center has left both progressives and moderates dissatisfied. He's trying to please everyone, one Labour strategist said, and in the process, he's pleasing no one. Meanwhile, ordinary Britons appear increasingly disillusioned. With inflation still biting and public services stretched thin, patience is wearing thin among voters who expected faster results. "We voted for change," said one voter in Birmingham. "All we've seen so far are excuses and infighting." Political historians note that British prime ministers rarely recover once doubts about their leadership take hold inside their own party. From Margaret Thatcher to Boris Johnson, once the whispers begin, the countdown often starts. If Starmer manages to deliver a strong and convincing budget later this month, one that balances economic responsibility with fairness, he could still regain some lost ground. But if the numbers disappoint or public reaction turns sour, his leadership could be in immediate jeopardy. For now, Labour MPs are watching and waiting, cautious not to move too soon. Behind the scenes, quiet conversations continue about strategy, survival, and who might come next if the polls collapse further. One veteran Labour figure summed up the mood bluntly: "Starmer isn't finished yet, but the walls are closing in." By Monday morning, the mood inside Westminster had shifted from confusion to quiet panic. Several senior Labour officials were seen entering Downing Street for back-to-back meetings as the Prime Minister's team scrambled to contain the damage from nearly a week of negative headlines. According to multiple reports, Starmer's communications director held an urgent strategy session late Sunday night, instructing staff to avoid off-the-record comments and warning that any further leaks would lead to dismissals. The move was described by one insider as an attempt to stop the bleeding. Meanwhile, Wes Streeting appeared in front of reporters outside the Department of Health, reiterating that he had no interest in any leadership bid. He urged colleagues to put aside the gossip and focus on getting Britain's health service back on track. But his calm tone did little to quiet speculation. Political blogs and social media continued to buzz with claims that several MPs had already begun testing support for a possible leadership contest. Even some of Starmer's loyalists are said to be frustrated. He needs to show authority, one advisor admitted anonymously. If he doesn't get in front of this, it's going to define him, not the budget, not his policies, but the chaos around him. Across the country, the public response has been increasingly skeptical. Polling agencies report that confidence in the government's direction has dropped to its lowest level since Labour's election win. Voters are expressing frustration that the party seems more focused on internal disputes than on solving real problems like housing, healthcare, and rising costs. On social media, hashtags like Labor Crisis, hashtag Starmer Under Fire, and hashtag Leadership Challenge have dominated political discussions. Commentators have begun to draw comparisons to past moments of political turmoil, such as Theresa May's leadership struggles and the collapse of Liz Truss's government. Despite the mounting tension, Starmer remains outwardly calm. On Monday afternoon, during a visit to a housing project in Manchester, he told reporters that the government is getting on with the job, insisting that his team was united and focused on delivering for the British people. His words were firm, but observers noted that his usual confidence seemed shaken. Political journalist Emily Harding commented on Sky News, "Starmer looks like a man fighting to project stability while knowing that the ground beneath him is shifting. The real question is whether he still has enough control inside his own party to survive what's coming next." Inside Labour headquarters, preparations are now underway for the November 26th budget speech, a moment that could either stabilize Starmer's leadership or break it entirely. Allies are pushing him to take bold action, a tax plan that's fair but decisive, a speech that reclaims moral authority, and a clear promise to restore economic confidence. But others warn that the Prime Minister is running out of chances. "If the budget flops, it's over," said one senior Labour MP bluntly. "People like him, but they don't fear him. And in politics, if your party doesn't fear losing you, they'll replace you." For now, Keir Starmer faces the toughest fight of his political life, not against the opposition, but against the doubts within his own ranks. His next speech could determine whether he remains in number 10 or becomes another name added to the long list of British leaders brought down by internal rebellion. And as one Westminster veteran put it late Monday night, every Prime Minister says they'll survive the storm until the moment they don't.